another thing that we can do is reimagine expertise. And this is what I mean by that, right? So young people are experts on their lives, right? It shouldn't, and we shouldn't romanticize that either, right? Because young folks will say some things that are contradictory, right? They'll say some things that may give you homicidal thoughts, right? But this thing around how do we now start to look at that, right? Because in the reframing of the expertise, now we have to ask a different question of those who are trained in research methodologies. Right? So Linda Tui Wise Smith talks about a decolonizing methodology. She talks about working with Maori students and families, and people always come to her and say, well, what can I do to support the struggle? And Linda's point is always, grab a mop. Now, we don't need folk claiming these random things. Can you sweep the floor? And she says, that thins the folks out real quick, right? Because who actually is down to sweep the floor? No glory box, no talk, no camera. It's just you, some young folks, their families, and the work you're trying to do, right? So now we think about that, right? So if we rearrange these spaces, right? If we start to consider how do we start to address real world issues in real time? During the conference today, I had a call this morning. There's a young woman who's trying to do a dissertation on sex education, positive sex ed. They are giving her holy hell. And guess what we know about teenagers? It is the most idiotic thing. It's like every adult just forgot that they were 16 and somebody told them that they liked them, and now all you see is the hearts, right? That's all you see, right? And for those I see the folks who work with young folks laugh because y'all see it, right? And it's subtle, right? It's everything from, the little ones, it's like the elbow rub. So this thing around thinking about that, right? So now, and just take how you all answer my question, right? If we understand that the majority of our education happens outside of school, and we know that young folks are engaging in physical activity with each other, and they're educating each other, and no one knows about the practices of their body, what's gonna happen? And we see what happens. What group of young people have the highest rate of HIV/AIDS currently? Young black women, right? So now we think about this. We have to think about this in different ways. Me and one of her advisors are just going through all of these things and trying to make sure that we can get sanguine language so she can talk to young folks about what we know they're doing anyway. So this thing around rearranging this consideration of expertise, but also troubling the language, right? So troubling this isolating language, right? Because this thing around, even the way we talk about research, right? The research site, the research subject, right? This becomes important because now, I was talking to a couple folks last night, there's a very interesting book that James Baldwin and Margaret Mead wrote together called The Rap on Race. And in it, and Margaret Mead is an anthropologist, James Baldwin, a literary scholar, and he just says this thing to Margaret Mead. He says, Margaret, I feel like you're talking about monkeys. These are humans. These are people with dreams, aspirations, understandings, and ways in which that we can address real world issues. They should never be dehumanized, right? But in the language of traditional mainstream research, we get this, right? My worry is now you got a center, you got a space for folks to be, and my worry is you got a gentry of people coming with coats and notepads following babies around, right? With no explanation, right? Now they call those things child development labs. Y'all seen these things? Y'all got one right here. Put the numbers on the back. Follow them around and look at the behavior. Then you go into a room. They got cameras. They got big screens now, right? Where they discuss 321. Right? I'm saying, well, wait, what does that mean? And how do we now understand that relationship as an extension of places like the Carlisle Indian schools or the Tuskegee experiment, right? Or the development of the birth control pill, right? So we have to be clear about this, right? And we have to ask those deeper questions that not just trouble things for the sake of troubling them, but troubling them because someone's life is really in the balance, right? Sometimes including our own.